What's going on, family? This is Scrapbook Boxing Museum of the Forgotten Fisticuffs series. I want to take a look at a match that took place March 15th, 1955 between Bobby Dykes and Kid Gavilan. Now, Bobby Dykes was a San Antonio, Texas southpaw, 6 foot, beautiful jab, good movement, knew how to tie his man up and walk his man back to the center of the ring. He had all the goods. He had all the quality and skills to test a former welterweight champion, Kid Gavilan. Kid Gavilan would be in a ring with Sugar Ray Robinson on 2 different occasions. But the best fight between those two would be the Philadelphia fight. It would be a ring classic. Kid Gavilan was known as the Cuban Hawk. His name was Gerardo Gonzalez. And he would be the fighter that would invent the double bolo punch. Now that punch was designed when he was in Cuba cutting sugar canes with the machete. And he would wind up this punch from the body and then bring it straight up to the head. Now, the original bolo punch was designed by Severino Garcia. Now, Severino Garcia was a welterweight for many years, and he would have some fights with the great Henry Armstrong. But in 1940, Henry Armstrong would challenge Severino Garcia for his welterweight and middleweight championship strap. But he would come up short. Unfortunately, they would call it a draw because they took 5 rounds away from Henry Armstrong. And the referee would fly out of the ring when that fight was over. It was a fixed fight. Henry Armstrong clearly defeated Severino Garcia because he defeated him before that fight in 1940 and he defeated him after the fight in 1940. They didn't want Henry Armstrong to become a 4-time world champion. But Severino Garcia was known for the bolo punch. He was from the Philippines. Beautiful boxer. One of the greatest boxers of all times. Henry Armstrong was a phenomenal fighter. Like I said, he defeated Severino Garcia. It was a fixed fight, unfortunately, for Armstrong. He wasn't in on a fixed fight. Just the referee refused to allow him to win. Henry Armstrong, I have rated number 4, my greatest fighters of all times. Now, Kid Gavilan was born January 6, 1926. He died February 13, 2003 in Miami, Florida. I had the pleasure of meeting Kid Gavilan. Very sincere individual. He stood 5 foot 10 and a half inches and he weighed 121 and a quarter to 156 and a half pounds. He was managed by Fernando Baldo and trained by Ray Arcel. Now, Gavilan was known for hand speed, double bolo punch, foot speed. He was at his best at 1950 to 1953. The Gavilan won over 110 bouts. He was a welterweight champion. You can't ask for more from a very good fighter such as Kid Gavilan. He'd be in there with great fighters such as Ike Williams, Bo Jack, Carmen Basilio, Billy Graham, Gil Turner, Ralph Tiger Jones, Ernie Durando, Ralph Zanelli, Vic Cardell. I'm just naming as many as I can at the top of my head. Patty Young, Eugene Hairston, Johnny Bratton, Tony Gennaro, Bobby Dykes, Chuck Davey, Chico Vijar, just to name a few. He was in there with some of the greatest fighters of his time. He'd be in there with the great Johnny Saxton. Johnny Saxton would become welterweight champion as well. And he would lose his title. Tony DeMarco and Carmen Basilio. The great Philadelphian, Gil Turner. I have Gil Turner, one of the greatest Philadelphia fighters of all time. He was a phenomenal fighter. 1955 alone. Look up his record. You'll see the quality of fighters that he fought in that 1 year alone. He was in there with Bo Jack several times and many great fighters in 1955. 1955 would be the year that Rocky Marciano would hang up the gloves. He would face the great Archie Moore, did Rocky Marciano. Gil Turner, great fighter. Kid Gavilander would be in there with Johnny Bratton. Johnny Bratton was a fantastic Chicago fighter. The only problem with him, he had brittle hands. He kept breaking his hands. But he would fight Kid Gavilander 8 rounds with a broken jaw. He was a beautiful combination puncher. He was just short of the skills of Ray Robinson. He was a pretty boy, but he could fight. He'd be an opponent for Kid Gavilander. Gavilander would be in there with Billy Graham. Billy Graham was a phenomenal fighter. He went from welterweight to middleweight to challenge Joey Giardello. And for about 2 minutes, he was the middleweight champion of the world, and they reversed the decision in favor of the champion, Joey Giardello. But Billy Graham was a phenomenal fighter, and he would be an opponent for Kid Gavilander. Now, the referee for that fight on March 15, 1955, between Bobby Dykes and Kid Gavilander would be Petey Cerrone. Now, Petey Cerrone would be the featherweight champion that the great Henry Armstrong would defeat and become the first black featherweight champion of the United States. Petey Cerrone was a dynamic fighter, and he would retire and eventually become the referee, and he would referee the fight at the Miami Stadium between Bobby Dykes and Kid Gavilander. Now, the thing with Bobby Dykes, he got out to a bad start in a fight with Gavilander for the title. Now, he started to get off the floor because he was dropped with a beautiful left hand. And after struggling for the first 3 rounds, Bobby Dykes began to force Gavilander to lead. And when Gavilander would lead, Bobby Dykes would hit him with beautiful straight right hands. You see, Bobby Dykes was a southpaw, and he would keep his foot on the outside of Kid Gavilander's. He would control the action. He knew how to move side to side. He was a tall, beautiful straight jab and a counterpuncher. The style bothered Gavilander. You see, Gavilander loved to play possum and allow his opponent to come inside. But Bobby Dykes was slightly ahead of Kid Gavilander's IQ thinking ability at that time because the pace was set in favor of Bobby Dykes. But the old veteran would come out with a bag of tricks. He would pick up on the skills and the intention of Bobby Dykes, and then he would start opening up with beautiful combinations. Now, after the 3rd round, Dykes was slightly ahead. Gavilander in the last 2 rounds was win by a split decision. The fight did go back and forth, but Gavilander, the master that he was, controlled the action. Like I said, he was a phenomenal fighter. Now, some of the fighters that Bobby Dykes would face would be Ernie Durando, Gil Turner, Joe Maselli, Joey Giamba, Kid Gavilander, Johnny Bratton, Willie Pastrana. Willie Pastrana would eventually become the light heavyweight champion of the world. Unbelievable. The career that Bobby Dykes and Kid Gavilander would have. And it was an outstanding fight, March 15th, 1955, in Miami Stadium. I hope you enjoyed reminiscing this fight with me between 2 great fighters. Thanks for hanging in there with me. Museum of the Forgotten Fisticuffs series. All great fights and all great fighters will never be forgotten on my channel. Salute to these dynamic fighters.